What is up, everybody? I'm Daniel.
And I'm Jed.
And today we're wasting our talent with
Steve McElroy.
This is your second time on our podcast.
Second time, yeah.
First time was with Fearless Fools.
Fearless Fools, yeah.
Now today you are
with Kinkademy.
Kinkademy. So tell us a little bit about Kinkademy.
Well, I'm kind of excited that we're doing this on Father's Day because a lot of people in the kink community call each other daddy, so
Okay.
it works. Yes, so Kinkademy came about when I was like on a road trip with my friend, and I was telling her kind of about the kink community and how to do this, and she was just like, hey, you know what? You should teach this stuff to people. Because a lot of people are watching 50 Shades of Grey. They want to kind of try this stuff out. There's a lot of safety involved with it and to do it correctly, and a lot of misinformation out there. So it's kind of nice to just have somebody come in and like teach people kind of like the basics for, you know, kink.
So is it like BDSM
Yep.
type? Do you teach like as like a workshop? Or
Yeah,
is it more
it's
like
basically a workshop. So it's a lot different from there's like pure romance play parties where it's like you come in and you're trying to sell something. My class, you kind of pay for it up front, and then I don't try to sell you anything. Like I just tell you about the products, and if you want to buy something, you can buy it on your own. I'm not selling you anything, so there's a lot of pressure taken off that way.
So what made you get started with this?
Yeah, like I said, I was driving with my friend about a year ago, and she said, you know a lot about this. And I used to be a teacher in college, and I quit, but I missed teaching. And she's like, you should just teach people this. And I said, yeah, that's a great idea.
So do you get people that come back like over and over again for the classes?
Not really. No, you only need to teach it one time, and it's good. And so the classes are broken down into about four different lessons. So first is like your basics and your basic safety rules and like how to set up a scene and everything like that. Then the second part of the workshop is like rope work, and I teach you like intricate ways to like tie each other up. The third is about impact play and how to like do spankings and whippings and things like that safely. And then the fourth is like things you can use around your house to have a good time.
That's interesting. I don't know much about that.
Improv.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably because you're old and frail to get to get kind of crazy like that. So.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a lot of the misconception with BDSM is like it's really scary. The media does not help that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, basically, if you see any type of BDSM on television or movies, it's like it's either like played for laughs, where it's like, you know, look at these freaks, or it's like some serial killer in an SVU episode who's like doing that. And I'm like, really, it's just a bunch of like people who are trying to spice up their sex life, really. So
Yeah.
Yeah, or you get the sex crazed person who just like can't get enough.
Right.
So like I want to say that was like a narrative in Nip Tuck,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
wasn't it? One of the main characters on there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've watched that
Yeah,
show, but yeah.
very long time.
It definitely sounds like something in there.
So have you gotten any kickback on this so far?
Like money or
Like backlash?
oh, backlash.
Like negativity, yeah.
Yeah, actually, like I love to fight on Facebook, and usually like when I'm on Facebook, you're arguing with somebody, they check out your profile and they see like, you know, what I do, and so they like, oh, I'm not gonna listen to that guy who sells dildos for a living, and I'm like, you know, I'd be okay with whatever you said about me, but like I don't sell dildos. Like that's not even what the business does.
Yeah.
So you just sell
I don't sell anything. I just sell
classes.
lessons. Yeah, I just basically sell classes.
Yeah, you don't actually sell products. You're not pushing anything on people. You're
exactly
just helping them ease into it.
And that's what like one of the complaints I hear about people who like have had pure romance parties and things like that is like they feel pressured to buy all this stuff and everything. And I was like, this is kind of different. Weird.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's an issue, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this has always been a thing, but just seems like everybody now is selling stuff.
Yeah.
Like everybody.
Oh yeah.
Like that, you know, the person in high school that you haven't talked to in 8 years that just randomly hits you up and is like, hey, I've got a new supplement.
Oh, yeah.
You should try this.
All that kind
I
of
got
stuff.
a new wrap. I got a cleanse. I got a
Essential oils.
something you should pay for that is definitely not a pyramid scheme for sure.
It's just shaped like a pyramid.
Yeah, it's just in that shape. Somebody at the top makes a lot of money.
Right.
Not a pyramid scheme though.
No.
So where do you hold your classes at?
I travel. So I have a suitcase full of my stuff, and then I just come to your house, and you host the party, and I teach you from there.
So it's like almost like that, like you said, pure romance. Like you go to them,
exactly,
set up, and so it's not like you have your own
it's
place
very very similar to pure romance, but it's not pure
not
romance because I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Yeah, and we'll make sure the people know that.
Yeah,
he's not selling you anything.
How far have you traveled so far?
Really just Morgantown. I've only had like a couple clients in Morgantown because we're just getting started.
Yeah. How far would you travel?
Maybe like Buchanan, maybe 1 or 2 hours out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't go crazy.
You live in Morgantown, right?
I live in Fairmont.
Oh, you live in Fairmont. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Like I've never, other than like, obviously seeing it in movies or TV or on, Pornhub.
Right.
Seeing it. So it's like, I'm not too familiar with the whole BDSM side of things. So like as somebody who doesn't know much about it, like what would you, how would you like explain it to them in a way that could get them like interested in it? Or if somebody was really like me, that I'm not too sure about that whole side of things.
Well, one thing about BDSM that I think helps a lot of couples, even who aren't into kink or like would not be interested in any of this stuff whatsoever, is it helps build up communication, which is a major problem with all couples in both their relationship and their sex life. And BDSM is really heavily reliant on consent and asking permission. So what it usually does is help start a dialogue about, hey, I'm kind of into this. I've always been embarrassed to say that I'm into this because, we're from a culture where we came from a bunch of Puritans where they're like, we don't talk about sex. It's horrible and dirty and awful and scary. And so it opens up that dialogue. So that, if there's something you like and you've always want to talk to your partner about it, it's a nice gateway into it. And one of the things I do in the first lesson too is I have like a checklist basically that I hand out for partners to use, and they can check like what they're interested in. Because in BDSM we have this thing called limits, and you have hard limits and soft limits, and limits basically like you can't do this to me. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be pooped on. Yeah. Ever. And if that's a limit, and you list that when you're negotiation, because the first thing you do before you start a BDSM scene is you negotiate about like what is okay to do, what is not okay to do. And if you list that as a limit, then you just don't do it. You don't bring it up, and you don't try to sneak it in there. Yeah,
because I think like with like seeing it in movies and everything, you don't see that side of it.
No, because
it's just always just like the act of doing that. But
I kind of understand from like an entertainment perspective because it's not that glamorous. Like most people don't start out with paperwork before they have sex. You know? So,
right.
So I understand why they don't show it in the movies, but it's actually a very important part of the process.
Yeah. So you have checklists that you give to couples.
Yeah.
So they can have that for use whenever they actually.
Yeah, whenever they want to try this stuff. Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that it was like that deep. Like I said, like I've been skewed by movies and stuff. So knowing that it goes further than just the act of that, there's a lot.
Yeah, the most feedback I get from it is usually people are like, "Oh, I thought it was a lot more scarier than this," and it's like, "Oh, this isn't scary at all,"
Yeah, it seems almost intimidating from like an outside point.
Oh,
of
absolutely.
view,
Yeah, that's been the main feedback so far. It's like, oh, it's really intimidating. There's so much stuff out there, and there's like some really big safety concerns depending on how heavy you get into it.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have to be. Like it could be it could just be like putting on a blindfold, and
which honestly, some
using
people
a feather,
are,
Yeah.
Some people just don't like that. Just
exactly.
Or being handcuffed or tied up or anything
right,
like that,
or choked or things like that.
And I always find that out about partners after we've been together, and that's something that I've always needed to work on is that communication within a relationship.
Exactly.
And even just that aspect of it would interest me, like with a partner, because I'm just not good at communicating anything with anybody.
Or having partners.
Or having partners, the two. Let's not get into that side of things.
Tell you more.
So I think it really highlights, though, like, just this discussion that we're having, I think it highlights the need for better education on it. Because, you know, like he's saying, and I would echo that most of what I know about it comes from just what I've seen on TV shows and movies, and most of that is just stereotype.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
So how much are your classes?
I usually do about $20 a person. So usually like a class of 5 would be like $100.
Mm-hmm.
And that covers all 4 lessons?
And that covers all 4 lessons.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's about a 3-hour course, so it's
that's
a pretty good deal for it.
Yeah, so that's all 4 courses in one evening. It's not
Yeah.
like a 4-day thing.
No, just one evening, and I go through all 4.
Crap.
Yeah.
That's really not bad.
Now,
at
and
all.
some of the lessons like last longer than the others. Like I would say like the rope course is the majority of the time, just because it takes so long to tie somebody up, and some of the stuff we do is really intricate. We do a la shibari and things like that. But then some things don't take long at all, like the impact play.
Like and that's like the spanking.
That's like the spanking and things like that. Yeah.
Do you plan on expanding in the future on what you offer course-wise? Like maybe having higher level advanced courses for people who are already into kink?
Yes, hopefully. But again, that's going to take a lot of education on my end. Like there's some things that I just, I won't touch on, or I won't, even in my private life, won't practice because I'm not versed in how to do that. Things like suspension play or with electro play or things like that. Or some of the more hardcore things.
So what is suspension and electro play like?
So suspension is basically like hanging somebody from the ropes in the air, which you don't ever want to do if you're a beginner, because there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And like usually people have to get like certified in order to do that kind of stuff.
Even to like obviously to teach it too.
And so to even teach it, I would have to be certified and all that.
Did you have to get any certifications for doing this?
Not
part of
really,
it?
no, because what I'm doing is I'm not doing anything that's like really dangerous.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you've been into BDSM for a while.
For a long
yourself.
time, yeah. I'm a hipster as far as the BDSM goes, because I'm like I was into it way before 50 Shades of Grey
Way
came
before
around. So.
I feel like that skewed a lot of people. I never watched 50 Shades of Grey, but I feel like, just whenever it was out, everybody's like, oh my God, I don't even know the guy's name. Obviously, it's Grey, but Christian Grey.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Everybody-
Yeah.
They're like fangirled over him. Then like they're doing Ted Bundy now with like the Ted Bundy shit. They're just like people, not just girls, guys too, but they just grab a hold of something that's fake,
Right.
and then try to model that, or they want a guy that's just like that. But a lot of people,
Well, didn't it also like really kind of hurt the reputation because
Oh yeah.
probably,
like
Yeah,
they wrote
the majority
him really
of the kink
badly?
community does not like 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
I don't like it, not so much because of the negative message it sends out or the misinformation it sends out, but also like the writing is really freaking terrible. Like just awful.
Yeah, I remember when it was like really big. I remember thinking to myself, like, man, I don't know, maybe like I should go read it, and maybe it's not as bad as what people say.
It's
and I remember
worse.
like,
is it worse?
I think I got like 10 pages in, and I was like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like not
Like I've read better fan fictions.
yeah,
than
not
this.
the, like not even to speak to the content, because obviously I only got 10 pages in, but just like the sentence structure and just like the writing
and the
was
reuse of the same
awful.
metaphor
Yeah.
over and over again.
Like the vocabulary was like, it was like a, and no offense to middle schoolers out there, there's
No,
a lot of really
I'm
smart
with
middle
you.
schoolers out
But
there.
yeah, it was like
but
a
it was
sixth
like a
grade
middle
story project
schooler
about sex.
did a school project. Yeah, like it was terrible. Terrible. But yeah, I
don't know
remember
what kind of deal with the devil happened to make that get as big as it did. But
I don't know. I just remember seeing a lot of stuff about how, people that were actually in the community were saying like, don't glorify this because this really isn't what we're about. This is actually kind of abusive.
yeah, and it also sends the same message that like, if you're into this, you've got to be psychologically damaged and things
Yeah,
like that. Like,
which is not the case. And
no, I'm like the most white bread human being alive. Like,
it's honestly the people that you wouldn't expect
Yeah.
that would be into it, that are into it.
Absolutely.
Not the people like Jed, where I'm be like, you probably do some weird shit, but
Well, you don't.
I mean,
I don't.
I mean, you probably do, but no. But yeah, I think the most I was blindfolded and handcuffed I think it was the craziest thing.
Yeah, and that's another thing I like to teach in the classes too. Is like a lot of people's first experience with BDSM. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know the safety rules and stuff like that. So they have a bad time. So they're like, "Oh, I don't really like this." But you don't know if you don't really like it because if it was done incorrectly, then you're going to have a bad experience. For example, handcuffs. Hate handcuffs. I would never use them the first time because A, they really hurt your wrists.
Oh, they were like
they're
furry,
super uncomfortable. Even the furries
even
though,
those,
they kind of get
they
like
got
in
the-
there. Like you'd rather want to use like a cotton rope or like a leather cuff for comfort and things like that.
I mean, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like a lot of people they try handcuffs because they're like there's metal kinds that they get out of a Halloween costume and they're super uncomfortable and they're like, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more the blindfolding side of it that was.
What's
I
cool?
dug it.
What's cool about blindfolding is they heighten the other senses.
Yeah.
So like touch is better and smell is better and you can start to hear your partner's heartbeat and things like that. So yeah, I enjoy blindfolds too.
I don't think I could do blindfolds.
You don't think so? I mean, you can barely see anyway.
I don't think so. No.
Well, and another thing that I think Kinkademy helps as far as relationships go, even for people who are not into it, is it helps build trust because BDSM is all about trust because you're being immobilized or you're having one of your senses taken away. And so you have to put a lot of trust in your partner. So that kind of builds an intimacy with your partner a lot more than.
Yeah, it's like it's not just, something just for your sex life, but I mean, it's like you said, communication and trust, which, like now communication's a huge deal, especially with like the social media and how easily it is to communicate, like with a text or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And people don't know how to talk in person anymore.
Oh, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
tough. And I've fallen into that too. I was actually just thinking the other day, like how easy it was, not easy, but like how much better I felt dating was back before Facebook was huge. Like even like the beginning of MySpace, like I enjoyed going out and meeting people. Now it's like I go out in the public and I'm like, hey, I don't want to talk to anybody. It's like
You're on your phone.
Yeah. So, in which translates into relationships. It translates, into friendships too. Like, people
Absolutely.
can't communicate with each other. And maybe we should take a BDSM course together, Chad.
I'm down.
Go to Kinkademy. I think I honestly, like, I'm really interested in doing it just for my sake, just so I can learn more about it. Because, like you said, being skewed by the media, I think a lot of people have been. So, so as far as it, like, so there's obviously, the one, or maybe I might be wrong on this, but like, I'm not too sure, like if, I don't know how to word it. Somebody that does that, like that ties somebody up, and then the person that is being tied up, or does like do most times does it go both ways?
Well, there's three categories, all right? So you got your dominants or your doms if you're a female. Doms with an M-E, maybe dame. I'm not sure the French pronunciation of that. Then you have your submissives, who are the people who like to be tied up. And then you have what we call switches, and those are people who like
Do both.
can do either one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know I think I'd be more along the switch. I think we did something like that. Didn't we take a quiz
There
or
was
something?
something
Like
that
a
Cecily
really long,
gave us.
like 100 question.
Yeah.
quiz
Oh,
that-
yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Because I think she took the
An
class. I
obsessively
think.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cecily sort of took the class.
Sort of took the
Here's
class.
what happened. Cecily hired me to do the class, but she went to this is probably bad. I shouldn't be telling the story on the air. She's going to get mad. But it was graduation day, so she was at a party. She got drunk and passed out during the day I was giving the class.
No.
Woke up after I had left and was like,
wow.
I missed it.
Yeah, we've all been there.
She felt really bad, so I wasn't mad about it or anything like that, and we had a good time. So
So she actually paid for the class
yeah, I missed it,
and then wasn't there, but everybody else
But
went.
everybody else went. Yeah.
That's too funny. Did Chris go?
No.
So I feel like he would be somebody that'd be into that too.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
but I think he puts off like he would be like a dominant, but I feel like
No,
he's
I don't-
definitely
I
a
don't think he
submissive.
Well, that's one of the crazy things about it is usually people who are more dominant in their regular life tend to be more submissive. That's why you get like all these high-powered businessmen going to dominatrixes because the best thing about being a submissive too is it's kind of like a release, and it's kind of a relaxation to just like give up control, especially if you're somebody who has to like make a bunch of decisions in a really high pressure situation. The ability to like give up control for a little bit is psychologically like kind of healthy and helpful. And then DOMs usually tend to be like people who are more submissive in their daily life. Like for me, I'm like a total pushover.
So you're
In my day-to-day life, so I'm more dominant in the bedroom. And I get kind of a release that way.
yeah.
Curious.
As far as do you do any like dominatrix type classes or anything like that with it, or is that kind of part of it?
Yeah, the whole thing kind of runs the whole gambit of teaching like both how to be dominant and how to be submissive in the same class, because it's more of like I said, it's more of an information class. So,
And you have more. Is it more single people like just come in like by themselves, or is I'm assuming that whenever you do these classes, it's like a group of friends or
yeah, it's
like,
usually it's kind of like a group of friends, and it's great for like bachelorette parties or birthday parties or what have you. Just as like kind of a fun activity that's like not your typical Friday night type
yeah.
thing. So yeah, I've had both couples and singles in classes. But everything's on the above board. Everybody keeps their clothes on. It's not like debaucherous or anything like that. We're just talking about sex.
Now, how do people contact you about this?
I have both a Facebook and a Instagram, so you can contact me via either of those. And then also we have a email address, which is kinkademy@gmail.com.
Okay. And which one do you prefer people like if they want to?
I prefer they contact me. Period. Really.
Just contact. Just fucking email me.
Your Facebook and Instagram is Kinkademy?
Yes, Kinkademy. Yeah. And I kind of lucked out on the domain name because nobody's had it before. I'm like, really? No one's used this before? Okay.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me.
Yeah. Whenever, obviously, I knew you. Whenever I saw the email, the Kinkademy. I thought I'd heard of it before, but I thought I'd seen it before, and I thought it was like a bigger, honestly, like a bigger organization.
Yeah, I think there's a Kink Academy.
Probably
which
what
is
I was thinking. Yeah.
They
So
just
just
weren't as
gonna-
creative.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just write off their coattails, you know what I'm saying? Their name recognition.
So what's the craziest? I'm trying to get craziest thing that you've ever done that you're willing to share. I would like to.
I don't know. Like, it's so weird. Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard to tell, like, what people think is crazy and what people don't think
That's
is crazy.
true, yeah.
You know? Like, some people would think, like, tying somebody up is crazy, and then some people would be like, well, peeing on somebody is crazy, you know?
I think that's where I draw the line. Any kind of scat play is a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
No. I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
but I mean, I use whips. I think that's kind of crazy too, like
actual-
floggers and things like that. And I teach you how to do that in King Academies. If you ever want to try to use a whip, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Not a bull whip, but like just regular floggers and things like that.
God, could you imagine?
Yeah,
Oh God.
that would hurt. Like,
Yeah.
well, and we talk about like things that are like, listen, don't start off with these things because they're going to cause a lot of pain. Like if you've got like a low pain tolerance, don't use canes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
People use canes.
yeah, people use canes. Yeah. Now I can tell you
I don't know
about
if I
some
could do
crazy
that.
stuff that I've never done, but is crazy and out there. Things like figging, which is you take the ginger root and you peel it, and then you put that in an orifice.
Oh, my.
Or nettles. You ever been out in the woods and you run against a nettle plant?
Yeah.
There's these plants that like have these like little
like this-
hairs on
yeah.
them, and they hurt like crazy. Like people use those in play too. And I'm like, that's not for me.
No,
Like
no.
I actually have a very low pain tolerance
Yeah.
for.
I don't know if I could. No. I know I had a
Because
friend.
that would be insane. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a
don't-
friend in high school, and I don't know if you've ever encountered this with people wanting you to help them with this, but he liked being cut,
Yeah.
which is to me that's
Yeah.
a little too far. But he always kept a knife, and he'd always have like cuts along his
Oh, wow.
chest
Yeah.
and stuff. Like
Well, and there's people who like do the hooks, like they put the
Yeah.
hooks in
Yeah.
their skin and they're suspended by the hooks.
that's what I thought you meant earlier whenever you were talking about suspension.
Yeah.
Which seems
Well, yeah. So suspension is dangerous, but then that's a whole other level of danger.
Have you ever had
Yeah.
anybody like ask you in a class about like anything well beyond your comfort zone or things that you know about?
Not so far. And I'll just be honest with you. I'm like, I'm not trained in that. I don't feel comfortable teaching that, and so I'm sorry.
You mentioned before, and you just mentioned now the whole being trained and certified and everything. How does that work?
I
Like,
think
who does the
there are
the
classes you can go
certifying?
to. Just Google them and like look it up. Usually, like bigger cities will have
Yeah.
workshops and whatnot on how to learn how to do that kind of stuff, like Pittsburgh or New York or things like that locally.
Is there actually like an organization that oversees those trainings and stuff to make sure that is there
of
like a standard?
It's more of like a bunch of different organizations. Like
Okay.
usually a community will have like kind of a big branch of people who are certified into that.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about expanding out like into doing, like actually going and get your certification to do any of like the crazier things, the suspension and eventually?
Eventually, maybe, yeah, depending on how this takes off. But again, like I have a day job, so
So you've got your day job, this, and then
the Fearless Fools,
yeah.
and then also Shakespeare on the side too. So
Shakespeare.
yeah, I stay pretty busy. Yeah, so Vintage also, the same people who do the Fearless Fools also has like a Shakespeare in the Parks kind of company too that they tour the state with doing different works from William Shakespeare.
Oh, so they're actually plays.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so they're
that's cool. I
doing
think I've
As You
seen-
Like It and Julius Caesar this year. So
Caesar.
You guys, are you guys the ones that do the stuff down at Palatine?
yes, yeah, like Shakespeare plays that come in
okay.
to Palatine.
Yeah,
That'll
'cause
be us.
I've seen those down there. I haven't actually seen one, but
Yeah.
I've
So
heard
if you
of them down there,
if you come to see As You Like It in Palatine Park, you'd be like, oh yeah, listen to that guy talk about kinky sex for an hour. And I'll sign an autograph.
Man of many trades. So what do you do during your day job? Or do you not want to talk about
I'd
it?
rather not,
Okay, that's fair.
just because of like what I'm.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Because it's kind of sad, and that's another reason why I wanted to start this company too. Is like it's pretty stigmatic. Like there's a big
Oh, yeah.
stigmatism being into this kind of community. Like you can't really talk about it out loud. Nobody really talks about it out loud. Again, because we're not a very sex positive society. You know? So
Yeah, that's why I asked earlier if you had any sort of backlash or anything, because I know that
so far not too bad. You know.
generally, and I mean there are people who take it to an extreme. Like if they think that you're into anything that they don't agree with,
Right.
then they you're immoral, you're a bad person.
Absolutely.
Especially here, like in
But it's
this, I
still
feel
a
like in this
religious
state, like
Religious.
tattoos are kind of like just now becoming a thing, but like you still get weird looks sometimes, and
People think you're a skinhead.
people think I'm a skinhead a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm a theist too. I mean, I believe in God, and like I honestly believe like God doesn't want us to not enjoy sex. Like we should be able to talk about it.
Yeah. I just think it's been so, like you said, like our parents and my, like a lot of my friends, like you always hear about like people having the talk with their kids, like once they're like of age. I never had that. Like my parents never talked to me about it. Like we learned everything from, like sex is bad from, because we were raised, in church, things like
Right.
that. And I didn't.
Abstinence only,
Yeah.
like
I think
it's only used for procreation.
yeah,
like,
exactly. I think my first like introduction to it was one of my grandpas. I found he had a Playboy collection. It wasn't just like had a Playboy here and there. He had like all of them, and I found it. I think I was young, and I was like I was like, oh, titties. So like that's how I learned about the female body or whatever, but I was never actually introduced to it. Like you hear everybody's like, let's
Yeah.
talk about the birds and the bees or whatever, and
and I think even sexual education classes. I mean, aside from like
yeah.
teaching you what STDs are, you really don't get that much out of them.
yeah,
And I think it it irritates me because people are always like, oh, well, if we're talking to kids about sex, then they're just going to want to have sex. Like, no,
Hey, everybody's going to want
everybody
to have sex.
wants to have sex. Like, if you don't, you should see a doctor
Right.
because like you might have a hormone issue.
yeah,
Yeah, either that or maybe you're asexual and there's nothing wrong with being asexual.
Yeah, okay, or that. Yeah, yeah. But the idea that, talking about sex is all of a sudden going to turn,
Yes,
middle
but I
school and
agree.
high school
Yeah,
age
100%.
kids into sex crazed lunatics. They're already sex crazed lunatics. Like everybody's been to high school. Everybody went through middle school and high school. Like
Right.
people
And
are going to have sex.
gays too, like you can't talk about gay. You can't introduce.
Yeah. Oh, God
You
forbid.
can't
No,
introduce
can't do
kids
that.
to gays because that'll make them gay. When I'm
No.
like thinking, it's not a choice. Like I don't wake up every day and I'm like, oh, do I like dudes or do I like girls? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it's
I'm
not,
gonna wear a
it's
blue
not an
shirt or a
illness.
green
You're
shirt,
not
you
just
know
going to
what I'm
like all of
saying?
a sudden be like, oh no, I got it.
like you either, you either like the same sex or you don't. So like,
Yeah, I remember my sex ed class. It was taught by, I forget his name, but dude was like 80, and it was so boring, and it was like mandatory. Obviously, you have to take your sex ed class, and it was at Bridgeport. And man, like I could not pay attention in his class. It wasn't like it didn't. Not that it didn't interest me,
they
but
were
it was just
so
like,
boring.
Yeah, it was just like I don't care. And that was before I had ever had sex. I didn't like have sex until I was 18.
I mean,
But-
God bless the teachers though, because I mean that's going to be an
yeah.
awkward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the yeah, most of these
It's an
kids
awkward
have,
conversation. Like parents don't even want to do it, and then you're
Yeah.
going to do it for like 30-some kids.
It's like teaching them how to. This is how you put on a condom.
Right.
It's like most of the kids either more than likely have had sex. I know most. At least they bragged that they had had sex. When I was in high school.
Yeah.
But I think just sex in general is just. It's still in which it shouldn't be. Nothing should be taboo to talk about.
Right.
I think it's still
Oh yeah.
a very taboo subject. I mean, our group of friends, we're pretty open about anything. Like we talk about whatever. It's more joking manner, stuff like that. But in general,
Yeah.
people just don't talk about it, except for Marshall, and I don't like to hear that because he's gross. He tells me it's like I don't mind hearing about somebody's sex life, but when you get into that much detail, like,
just-
that's cool, dude. Like
You're
you keep
describing
that to
smells and things
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
Oh, Marshall.
Describing how he felt the earth kind of shift
Mm-hmm.
because it's not actually round, it's flat. And yeah, he's out there, man. But
Marshall. He's
but
special.
yeah, oh yeah, he's very special. So what kind of advice would you I'm trying to think, like to give to people to maybe open up to, if they're listening to this and they're kind of weird about, like, I mean,
I say just give it a shot, man. Like you're young. Life is short. Just
Yeah.
You
give
don't
it a
like
shot.
it. You don't like it.
You don't
Yeah.
like it. You don't like it.
You don't have to do
You
it.
might find out that you do like it. Who knows? And it might not. But if it doesn't, at least you are learning to communicate with your partner. And
yeah, and don't do it like don't hook up with somebody on Tinder then try to tie them up, because it's not going to work out too well.
Yeah,
I feel like it's more of a
my only experience with that, with anything. Well, I wouldn't say anything at all kinky, but like my first experience with anything remotely kinky, it was just sprung on me,
Yeah.
and it was not okay. And it took me a little while to get over it.
Right.
If I'm being honest.
Exactly. Well, and I wouldn't say like you can't like hook up on your first time.
Yeah.
And do the stuff on
Oh,
your
yeah.
first
But
time.
talk to
but
people.
Yeah, yeah,
but
there's
yeah,
gotta be-
at least, but do it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like you said, with the communication thing, that was the main issue. Was
Yeah.
that like I didn't
absolutely.
understand what was happening. There was no consent beforehand or anything like that. And I mean, I can tell you now, I'll be married 6 years in a month, and I feel like my wife and I have pretty good communication. But even for us, like, it's only been the past few years where we've really kind of opened up to each other and actually talked about sex.
Yeah.
And, hey, what do you like? What are you like? Well, what do you like this? Like, going back and forth and actually having discussions and trying to figure out how we can make our sex life better.
And that's weird too, because like when you think about it, you've always liked this stuff, right?
Right. You just never said
but
it.
Well, you never said it out loud. Like,
Yeah.
why would you do that? Like, I like this. I should tell my partner that I like this, and that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are just maybe scared.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
scared or
you don't want to be
embarrassed
judged,
or- yeah.
and
It's like, what if, and that goes both ways. Like, say if you liked something, but Jess wasn't into that, she's not the type of person that would think less of you for liking that, you know. And you guys have that kind of communication where you can talk about it. But I think a lot of couples, like especially with me and some of my exes, like I never talked about some kind of crazy stuff or kinky stuff. Sorry, I keep saying crazy.
It's all right.
That's a stereotype.
I'm used to it.
For you, it is crazy.
For me, getting out of bed
because
is crazy.
but somebody's touching you.
Yeah.
So it is crazy.
But like not having that trust to know that person isn't going to be like, well, I don't really, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be that back and forth.
Yeah, you don't want them go running for the hills, you know.
Yeah.
This is the thought process there, and you know, a lot of times it's probably not going to be that.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that I've noticed with, you know, communication and sex is that for a lot of people, or not necessarily sex, but just intimacy. And I've heard this a lot that, you know, if you have to talk about it and it's not just spontaneous, then it's like not real.
Yeah, that is
It's like, that's dumb.
well, and it's
That's
the opposite
so
of
dumb.
like what BDSM is too. It's like you
That's
have
so
to talk
dumb.
about it.
Like, just because, like,
And
okay,
it's-
sure, spontaneity is a thing. Awesome, great. I'm glad. You know, if that's how it is, that's fine. But if you have a you know, discussion with your partner about something, that doesn't make your experience any less valuable,
Right.
Just because you've discussed it beforehand,
Absolutely.
or after, or during, like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Preach.
That, and like honestly, like the anticipation or like the lead up to it after discussion, if you're both into something, could be better than it just happening.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I'm glad you said like intimacy versus sex too, because like BDSM usually doesn't even have to involve sex. Like I've had partners before where like we wouldn't have sex at all. We just do kink stuff, you know, because it's more of an intimacy thing than it is a sexual thing. Like there's things you can do that pertain to sex that are like strictly sex based, but for the most part, the majority of it is more like foreplay and things like that.
I had something.
Had go on.
Gone.
But you know, talking about spontaneity, I'll take something if you guys.
Yeah, like I
thinking-
had something.
You're talking about spontaneity too. I think. This is a dangerous comment. I think that kind of mindset, I don't think it's a causation or anything like that, but relates somewhat to kind of the rape culture, or certainly doesn't help the rape culture. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not that concerned with consent because we're trying to be spontaneous. But what we lack, I think, as a society, is the importance of consent.
Yeah.
In everything, pretty
Yeah.
much.
That's a big.
No, I agree. I
like-
totally agree.
Like it's almost like I see so much about like, you know.
Now, I'm not saying if you spontaneously kiss your partner, you're a rapist. I just want to put that.
Yeah, exactly. but like you
I'm
said,
just
I
saying
mean,
as a societal aspect.
yeah. I mean, it's become a huge deal. Obviously, with you know what's his face and that athlete
Kavanaugh
or,
which
or anybody.
Which
or-
one?
Yeah.
The Stanford
Weinstein.
rapist,
Yeah.
Brock Turner.
Yeah, it was stuff like that's obviously
fuck that
you know,
guy.
that was obviously rape. But I've also seen a lot of people who have consented to having sex and then regretted it and then went to the police about it too.
Right.
So, and that I mean, as a guy, that's kind of scary.
Well, definitely.
to think that if that's possible for somebody wherever, that it could happen to me. So it's like, even if it is consent, it's almost like you want a contract before you have sex.
Yeah.
Like, I need a copy of your driver's license. I need your signature. It's kind of.
I had a lot of conversations when I was in the Navy still with my shipmates out there. And that's a derogatory term, by the way.
Shipmates?
In the Navy, yeah. It's not supposed to be, but it is.
What is the proper terminology?
Shipmate. It's just like generally no one ever calls each other
They're
shipmates. It's like you get called a shipmate if like you're in trouble and it's like you're being called that by a superior, or if somebody doesn't like you and they just want to let you know, like, I don't like you, they'll call you shipmate.
Wow.
What do you typically call each other, though? Like,
Fucker.
fuck.
That's
Semen?
semen. Yeah. But yeah, I had a lot of talks with both men and women that served under me and with me, and generally it was. I personally have never really been a big fan of the whole, going out, being drunk, going home with somebody that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I generally tried to point people towards the direction of like, hey, maybe get their number, talk to them, see what happens another night.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know.
It's, I mean, not even just like, the potentially for them to claim rape.
Yeah.
But there's also, you don't know this person, STDs, and if you're drunk, like, are you using protection?
Absolutely.
Things like that. I've done it a couple times, but it's never been like one and done. Like I've always became friends with these people,
Yeah.
So,
well,
but
and
it's still kind of,
going back to the whole communication thing, it's hard enough to communicate with a stranger and then,
Sober.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're involving sex with it. And like you were saying earlier, the spontaneity of it, and like that, I can definitely see where, in a lot of cases that leads to rape.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I also teach in the class, for single people, what kind of red flags to avoid, when you're trying to find somebody to practice this stuff with.
Yeah.
Because this is something that, abusers do exist out there. And, we always say, like BDSM without consent is rape, but there will be abusers out there who'd be like, well, you're not a real submissive unless you do everything I say, or you're not a real submissive if you don't use a safe word. Or you're not a real submissive if you have limits that you don't want me to do, but I want to do those things to you. And all of those instances is just complete and total bullshit. Like,
yeah. And that's why you have those checklists.
Yeah, and so you gotta let people know that, like, if somebody's saying this, and acting like they're like, a good dom and like somebody who knows a lot about the situation, they might not be. They might just be an abuser in disguise.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that also, like, gets skewed by the media too, like especially like dominatrixes, like how they treat people in movies and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But you don't like earlier, you don't see the side where they've consented to do this and
right,
that, like
and establish safe words and things like that. Yeah.
But you also see it in movies where they'll say a safe word and
they keep going. Exactly.
Yeah. Which
then it's no longer BDSM, it's abuse.
Exactly.
Or it's rape. So there is a big distinction between those two things, and I think that's societally we don't see that as much, and we kind of equate them both as the same, and it's not at all the same way.
Yeah, I think this is good for people who haven't, especially somebody like me, or people who are listening that don't know anything about the side of it. Like, it's not just what you see on TV. It's not just what you see in porn. Like, there's a lot more that goes into.
Oh yeah,
like BDSM or kink
there
stuff.
should be.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I think that's a big takeaway. That I imagine a lot of people who get into it for the first time don't know. Like you were saying, they don't understand that there's all of this build up. That you need to have these discussions.
And if you're doing this like full time, or or if you're part of the lifestyle or the community, like, you're always learning. Like, there's times where I look back on like my early days of being a dom, and I'm like, oh man, I should have done this differently. I should have done that. I wish I would have known then what I know now. And you're gonna. People make mistakes. But you can't shut off the idea that I know everything about this. Even so, as someone who's doing this for probably over 15 years, I don't know. I would not even begin to tell you I know everything about it.
Right?
Yeah. Now, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you thought you might like something and then didn't?
Yes. Spitting, for one thing. Like, I always like, whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of hot. And then like I did it for the first time, like, oh, I feel really bad about it. Like, I did not like that at all.
Bust out a napkin. You're like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like spitting on somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't like my own spit. I don't know if I could do that.
Well, some people
Never tried it.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
But if you get into like humiliation play, some people like to be humiliated, which is interesting because actually the same part of the brain that processes pain is also the same part of the brain that processes humiliation. So if you're like somebody who like gets off to pain, you will probably also get off to humiliation because it's the same synapses that are firing.
Is
there.
Michael home? Because we should rope him in on this conversation.
See, I've heard
Does Michael like to be spit on? Is that why?
See,
Michael is a receptacle for pain.
Ah,
like
Emotional.
He's shared a little bit about his behind the scenes stuff with me, but I'm not going to say because he's not here. I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, I told him about the interview today. I know he's here, but I think Brittany's off today, so I think they're hanging out. So plus he's probably still. He said the bed last night was miserably hard. He couldn't sleep. So
Shouldn't have taken that free upgrade.
I know. We went to a wedding yesterday.
oh, nice.
So my brother was in the wedding party and got a hotel room, and he said the bed was just miserable. Was it the Marriott? Mm-hmm. At the waterfront?
Surprising.
Yeah.
Really, really nice hotel.
So, but anyway, back to what we're talking about.
Not Michael.
Not Michael. I don't want to have any part of thinking about my brother and sex in the same, thing. That's
Unless you're into that.
yeah. I mean, it's West Virginia, so
He's also terrible. So
Wait, who, me or
yes,
okay,
both.
okay. Well, see, I don't think I'd be into the humiliation,
Right.
Because I don't.
You get enough
I
of
get
that.
enough. I get enough of that around here.
Yeah.
I don't walk around with the boner the entire time. So there's, I'm obviously
ya.
not into it.
Well, that's another misconception about masochism too. Is like they think like if you like punch a masochist in the face, they're not going to get aroused from that because it's like they're not considering it. The atmosphere is not right. Like where it's coming from is not right.
And a masochist is somebody that
Who
likes
enjoys
to be,
pain. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
See, and like what?
It's nothing. Go ahead.
That's one thing that I've figured out is like I have a decent pain tolerance. Like I don't think it's like extraordinary, but it's not. It's there. But for me, pain with sex, nope, can't do it.
Right.
Don't like
Even to the point that like if we're getting into it and she's grabs onto me too hard with her nails or something, I'm just
the
like
same
nope,
way.
nope.
Like
let
I
go.
always-
That hurts.
I always tell people like, don't scratch me. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like
I am the exact opposite.
it will take me 100% out of it.
Yeah. I will tell. I'll tell us a funny story. So I actually told everybody at work this whenever I was at. Well, I won't say where, but where Michael and I were.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But the first time that Jess ever choked me, I was like,
I like stories that start out like that.
I was like, yeah, like go for it. Like, let's do it, And my wife is very strong.
Oh, yeah.
Like power lifted before.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like was starting to get into bodybuilding, and probably is stronger than me now.
And she's what, 5 foot
And a quarter of an
and a
inch.
quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
She's very
Very
tiny.
small,
Just
but
a little wee
but
little
she-
very
powerhouse.
strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is scary.
And and like I don't think she's ever choked anyone before.
Oh, okay.
Like I've grappled and wrestled like most of my life. So I'm very familiar with like, the amount of pressure that you need
you
to
can put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not. So she just went like full out and closed my windpipe pretty much
Oh,
immediately.
geez.
And you know how that makes you like cough?
Yeah.
And, like, yeah. I was like grabbing and like, oh my God. Like, you gotta stop. So we worked on that, but but yeah, I remember telling everybody at work, I was like, it was like, a gorilla had me. It was just strangling me. Like,
And I came instantly.
yeah, no, it was interesting though.
Yeah, one thing I talk about when I talk about choking too is like just doing things where your partner has complete control of how much they want to be choked, like putting like not applying pressure, but letting them apply the pressure.
Yeah.
Or even using like collars. Collars are a great way to do that because it's something, again, where they're applying the pressure to themselves. So they're just choking themselves with the amount they feel comfortable with. And, also like to have like there's sometimes where you can't use a safe word. For example, if you're being choked, you're not going to be able to talk as easily. So to have like a nonverbal safe word, like a 3 taps or something like that.
Yeah, the choking, scratching, biting. That's right up in my wheelhouse.
You do that? Yeah, I do that.
Hair pulling. Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends.
Oh, really?
Not
Okay.
the fucking beard.
Oh.
Oh, no, that
No.
hurts.
You could pull my hair all you want, but I've had girls pull like my facial
Rather
hair.
that, yeah.
I do not like that. No,
I've honestly forgotten what it feels like to have your hair pulled.
I can tell.
It's been a very long time.
You should just grow the back out, just like a little, like a skull.
Do like a Steven Seagal. I
We need to
know.
talk about
I know.
our tattoos
Yep,
later.
we
We're supposed to
gotta
be
do
getting
that.
these tattoos that are Steven Seagal. They're a little seagull, but it's Steven Seagal's face.
Did you know that that is actually a
that's nice.
band?
Steven Seagal?
It's called like Steven Seagulls.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And it's a band.
Huh.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Now, did the seagulls have the ponytail too? Is
Oh,
that-
yeah.
Yeah, that's how we were going to
Yep.
do it. And he was going to be like in a
Didn't that come from
like
Marshall
a karate
too?
stance.
Can we talk about Marshall again? How he mispronounced that and then thought Jeff Goldblum was gay? Because he was like, "Who's Jeff Goldblum?"
Yeah, I think it was
And
because
he's like,
then,
"Oh, he's in Jurassic
then
Park." He's
Zach
like, "Oh, he was
started
the gay
making
guy in
fun of
Jurassic
him.
Park, and it's like, no.
No.
I mean, I
The gay
guess
guy in
he
Jurassic Park
could
was
have
Wayne
been.
Knight.
What's that?
I said the gay guy in Jurassic Park was Wayne Knight, wasn't it? But
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I guess there was no point in the movie in which his character ever said that he wasn't gay.
that's true.
That's true. That's very true. I think he meant like in general, like not that his character was, but he
Oh,
thought
that Jeff Goldblum is gay.
Yeah.
I think
know.
at least 3 of the 5 dinosaurs were gay.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's all about representation, though. You know.
It was like I've always loved Jeff Goldblum, and like everything he's been in is great. And I didn't realize how fucking dirty he is until I watched The League.
Oh
He
yeah.
played. What's
God, that
his
was a
face?
good show.
Was it his dad?
His dad,
Like-
Ruxin's dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh my God, have you watched it?
Oh my God,
need
it's a
to
funny
watch it.
show.
It's fantasy football. It's just called The League, and they do.
You
like,
know how many
every season.
times you've explained to me what the league is and told me to watch it?
Really? You need to
Every
watch
time you bring it up, and I tell
Eventually
you that
you'll
I've
do
never
it.
seen it.
it. Yeah, you need to watch it.
It's on Netflix, I think, isn't it?
I think so.
It
Yeah.
I think
was.
Oh.
I would think it still is.
Probably.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. They keep taking good shows off there. It's when I stopped using Netflix. It's like they took Scrubs off. They've taken.
I still have it. I actually just upgraded to 4K Netflix.
What is that? Oh, where you get 4K
Where you get a
movies,
really
stuff like that.
crisp picture of Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
You can see
keeping
every
Netflix.
bag under his eye, you know.
I'm keeping Netflix around because their TV shows that they have are getting worse, but the movies and TV shows that they make,
That they make. Oh,
are
they're
getting
pretty good.
really good.
Yeah,
Like
BoJack is-
Ozark, BoJack.
Yeah.
The last Stephen King movie that they adapted, 1921,
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Stranger
That was
Things, which is
solid.
coming up this
Stranger
month.
Things.
Well, that's this month.
Yeah, or not this month, next month.
Next month,
Beginning of July.
Yeah.
I love Stranger Things.
Yeah, me too. I'm
So
really
good.
excited for
Yeah,
the new
like their
season.
in-house stuff, they're killing it. So
Which I like to see that. I mean, it sucks for like TV stations, but I mean, DirecTV charges you too much anyway for getting shit. You know, and a lot of these stations aren't actually producing good shows anymore anyway.
Really?
And ever since like the end of Breaking Bad on AMC was like the last good TV show like on just regular television to me.
yeah.
My personal opinion. I mean, that's not including like HBO and Showtime and all that kind of stuff. Because obviously, well,
AMC kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, they had Breaking
They
Bad.
had Breaking
Walking
Bad,
Dead,
Mad
too.
Men right before that.
Yep.
Walking Dead.
which really kind of took a turn for me. I stopped watching it.
That was pretty terrible.
So, anyway, before we get wrapped up, is there anything else that you wanted to, other than TV shows? We
Oh,
can
yeah,
keep-
other
we
than
can-
Netflix.
We can keep talking about TV shows, but
Yeah, sure.
we always get off on like a weird tangent. So,
No, I just, I think you guys should try it out. If you like, just send me an email or message me on the Facebook or the Instagram. The Instagram's really cool too because like I'll always put like information on the Instagram, and then I'll usually link that to the Facebook, so really you could get that up from both. But like if you just want like some neat factoids or some information about a certain type of equipment, you can find all that on my Instagram.
okay. And it's Kink.
It's Kinkademy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's,
and we'll have all that linked. I don't know why I always ask like to spell it and stuff because it's all gonna be linked in the
I'll
description.
do it anyway because
Yeah,
I
you can
like a
spell it,
good
yeah.
spelling challenge.
Let's do it.
It's a Kinkad. Yeah, never mind. I can't do it.
I think I spelled it right over here. Is it Ademy or?
I think it's Ademy. Yeah,
Yeah. Let me check real quick.
pretty sure, without looking at it.
Load. Yes, Kinkademy.
What did you just say?
Key?
Key?
Did I say key?
It's a Greek
K-I-N
letter.
key.
Key.
It's a new letter.
It's a new letter. Straight from my mouth. You heard it here first.
Breaking news.
There's now what? 20?
Wasted local talent exclusive.
We're going back to the Greek alphabet.
All right,
was
cool.
All right.
Sorry, what was that thing that we saw? I think you were telling me about it, about the Arabic numbers or whatever. where
Oh,
they-
Lord.
Oh,
Do we want to get on that?
They were like,
that
do you want to learn
tangent?
Arabic numbers?
Do you want
Yeah,
your
it's
kids
like-
learning Arabic? No, my kids.
Oh my god, that was the best thing ever.
It was too
Infidels, Muslims.
Somebody was obviously trolling people,
Oh, yeah.
and it
Yeah.
turned out amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marion County. You've been great.
We salute you.
All right, until next time.
Yep.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah,
Hey, thanks for
man.
having me. Appreciate it.
Cuts